So there was a lot of meetups happening. Like every week we had multiple meetups, different groups. When I moved to Freiburg, after a few months, there was the pandemic, and then nothing was happening for 2-3 years, I think. And also, I attended one online KubeCon, and it was kind of funny because then there were booths and stuff, but everything was online. So
like building a community is not a small task, and organizing it is again not a very something anyone can do it, but making them continue or making them sustain, that process is difficult. And a community doesn't build by just announcing. You also have to run it, and also passionately welcome the people who can also contribute to your roles and responsibilities. Not just you running the show, it's all the people who are coming all the way. Even that guy who came from France for by committing 1 hour, we should be respectful for every time.
I would say you shouldn't aim for the perfect thing, because internet is full of perfect things. I would say the thing that we maybe is more useful is to have your own point of view on the topic, which might not be perfect, but it's a different look on the topic, which is, I think, more useful.
Hello everyone, welcome to the another episode of TACOS, where we talk about community and open source and meeting awesome people around the globe. Since I moved to Germany now, and this is going to be my first postcard post that, I would say season 2. And who would be the better persons to invite? One of the guy who are part of the program, Docker Captain Mohammad-Ali. So welcome Mohammed for this program. I hope I pronounce your name correctly.
Awesome.
Okay. So I've read so many awesome things about you on LinkedIn, but I think I would put this stage for you to just introduce yourself. Feel free to pick up anything, and don't forget about the hat,
Sure.
because that's center of attraction.
Hello. Yes, my name is Mohammed Ali, and I'm a Docker captain based in Germany, in the corner now here in Freiburg, close to France and Switzerland. And yeah, so I'm a captain. I like coding, and I play lots of video games. So anything else you want to know, I can explain.
I want to know about all the toys which is I can see from here.
Yes. Okay. The first one is Moby from Docker.
Yes, I was.
Uh, the second one is the Snyk dog. So I don't know the exact name of the dog, but I'm also a Snyk ambassador, so that's why I have this. The
Okay.
other one is from SUSE. I think it's a chameleon.
Yes, I know.
And the other one is a cow. I think I'm not sure what the exact name is, but it's from Rancher. So because they have a lot of cows in there,
Yes.
and
Okay.
that's
First,
Batman.
I think in a one word, if I could say, so this is has almost every infrastructures people, right? Rancher, SUSE, right? Docker, everything we use to build a better software, right? To running smoothly or
I
things.
also have VP and family, so I have some CNCF stuff as well for Kubernetes and other parts.
Yes,
Yeah, not all of my toys are visible from that angle. Also, I also have uh, a stress container. So when it's stressful, when you're deploying containers, then you can to relieve your stress. Yeah,
yes, and
sorry.
sometimes once it started crashing, it's going into the loop. I think that's gonna help at that time as well.
Exactly.
I
Crash
I
with backup.
I have
But
all these toys in India. Like I have all the CNCF toys. I had a very structured right into. I'm sure you also put it in below of your screen. I guess underneath your screen, right on your table.
yes,
Amazing. I'm maybe soon I'm going to set up my workstation so that it could look cool.
yeah. It took me 9 years to set up my stuff, so no rush.
And in the same place.
And we moved a lot, but in this place, it's now 6 months that we're here, and
Okay.
I just have the nice setup. Before that, it was kind of messy, and the room was full of stuff. So now I tidied it up a bit.
Okay, awesome. So that's bring me to my first, because since one of the common link between us is one of the awesome programs that we both a part of, Docker Captain. So I just, because I joined this program I think a year and a half back, but I think you are in this program from a long time, and I wanted to know, like, from what drew to be part of this Docker. I'm sure you use Docker somewhere in your some systems that may help you to containerize something or refactoring some code, right? But wanted to know, like, how you heard about this program and what motivate you to be part of this program. Maybe you can share some experience.
Sure. I'm not exactly sure how I heard about this program, but I'm using Docker since it was 2 years old. I was using Python back in the day in this company, and I couldn't set up my local machine because there were some clashing packages for different things, and I couldn't run the test. My colleague said, "Okay, maybe use Docker because we are using Docker in CI, and if it works there, it should work there." I was like, yeah, what's Docker? And I spent like 2 weeks learning what Docker is. And then next thing you know, I was creating CI/CD pipelines for other projects using Docker. It was amazing. And I'm using Docker since I started blogging, I think 5 years ago. At some point, I was writing every week and stuff. And it was during Corona time, and I started because before that there was a lot of meetups happening, and there
Mhm.
was some time that nothing happened, and I was like, maybe we should do something because I also had returned to Freiburg and I didn't have much community here, and I started a community, a Docker community for Freiburg, the city that I'm currently in, and at the same time I was writing blog posts for Docker, and these kind of made me aim for Docker Captain program, and then when I applied, I already knew a lot of people there, so it was kind of smooth for me.
Okay, awesome. I think I got to know about this program because I met Harsh, and I was actually following Ajit Rana for a long time because he was creating some amazing content even when I was very new to Docker. So I heard about it in around 2016, where Vagrant is something people are using a lot at that time, right?
Mm.
Uh, And last year, when I actually organized a conference in India called Google Cloud Community Days, and Harsh was one of the speaker, and we have been in touch, and even I had a one podcast with him, like it, I guess it's 2 years back. And at that time there were, I think, only one Docker captain in India, and it was hers. Before it was Ajit, right?
Mhm.
And now it's many captains in India right now. As you know, right? We have welcomed so many captains, and so many talented people are coming on board creating awesome content. But he told me about him, and this is a really good program and you working, so I think you should be part of it, and he referred me, and here I am. But you shared one of the very good thing that during the pandemic you started meetup, right? Because people love meeting offline, right? And in the COVID-19, there are I think organizing events is almost double up, because people are organizing online meetup, and you might have come across at the same time that people are organizing meetup, same time there have been multiple meetups are happening virtually, right?
Yes.
But I think post pandemic something changed as well. There, so I wanted to know that difference post pandemic, like, because people want to go in person meetup, but still people are doing online as well. So what are the, like, what are the challenges post pandemic found to organizing a meetup? I know few of the infrastructure challenges that we all have, but apart from that, the interest level, I'm looking for the when people wanted to come, or being an organizer as well, being a speaker as well, right? What are the difference that you found, and what are the challenges as though you face?
And I never organized a meetup before pandemic, so I only went to them. I was in Holland at the time, living in The Hague, Den Haag, and I was working in Amsterdam. So there was a lot of meetups happening. Like every week, we had multiple meetups, different groups. When I moved to Freiburg, after a few months there was the pandemic, and then nothing was happening for 2 3 years, I think. And I started doing some stuff. The first two meetups that I had were online, so that other people could also join. Because also in the beginning, people were kind of afraid of meeting in public places. And the very first meetup that we had, I remember we had only one guest, and he wasn't from Freiburg. He came from France. He drove for, I don't know, 1 hour to get to the meetup, and he was the only guest there. It was kind of funny, and then it slowly grew. So I think the second one we had three guests, if I'm not wrong, and
Mhm.
now the last one that we had, it was a few weeks back, and we had 35 people, if I'm not wrong. So a lot happened during these last 2 3 years, and in the beginning it was a bit slow. People still preferred to stay inside, I guess. Uh, the good thing was that more webinars started to happen, and sometimes it was great because this person that is talking there, I cannot possibly meet in person because he's too far away or something like that. And then that was great because then the person is online, they speak, and then I can write into chat, and they answer back. So it's good that we have the balance of now the in person gatherings and also webinars. And also I attended one online KubeCon, and it was kind of funny because then there were booths and stuff, but everything was online. So kind of a funny experience.
Of course, of course. But I want to know, like, when you mentioned in the first meetup, there is only one people showed up,
Yes.
right? And second, the three wanted to know. So when you found out there's only one guy, right? And so what did you do? Did you cancel it, or did you still went ahead and you presented it? Or what? I just wanted to know that, because this is a very good, I would say, in community or in open, so it's a very good ethics as well. So yeah.
No, so I'm not sure how many people signed up. Maybe 5 people in total,
Mhm.
and the meetup was in this kind of a small company that is near my house, and I I was there. There were 2 people from the company there, and then later my wife joined, and also some other person from the company. So in at the end of the day, we were 5 6 people, but only one from outside came in, and we had a good time, and it was nice. And we were also kind of uh, thankful to this person who came all the way from Strasbourg, this city in France, and we wanted him to have a nice time there because he was commuting there for 1 hour each way. So that was nice. And in at the end we have had 13 meetups, I guess, so far. For a few of them, so we had different Docker captains speaking there. We have had Docker employees. For example, I think we had the people behind Docker debug once they're talking about what they had created. So it grew a lot, and then we used to have uh, all these meetups in this small company, and then at some point we wouldn't fit in the company anymore because there was not enough space, and we had to look for larger companies to host our meetups, and that was nice.
Yes, yes, agree, agree. And that's what actually, the reason I asked this is that I want to tell people that like building a community is not a small task, and organizing it is again a not a very, something anyone can do it, but making them continue or making them sustain, that process is difficult. Just organizing one day one time, so because people are always look for what next is going to happen, and when we do not deliver, right, then
Yeah.
so that's I think you should believe in the journey, because you start with the few people, maybe 4 or 5, and then people are growing because they know that you guys, everyone like who are organizing this kind of meetup, because I know it's a hell of a task. You need to always look for the venue, look for the partners, sending out the post, right? Also, sometimes we need to reach out in person as well to tell the people, or maybe your friends, right, in the same domain, that hey, can you spread the word, can you also come if you are available, right? So I
Hmm.
think this is a good journey, and I think this is a hell of a good experience. The only thing I want to tell the audience is, because people are post pandemic, people are drawn towards community, as you know, right? Every product and service, they have their own community. Specifically when blockchain came and now the AI came, right? Everyone has their own sort of community, but
Yes.
and a community doesn't build by just announcing. You also have to run it, and also passionately welcome the people who can also contribute to your roles and responsibilities. Not just you running the show, it's all the people who are coming all the way. Even that guy who came from France for by committing 1 hour, we should be respectful for every time. So that's the reason I specifically ask about that. And talking about AI, so we seeing, AI is similarly. I remember when blockchain came, or in a nutshell, Web3 came. It was again a bubble, or the pop up, like everywhere people talk about Web3, right?
Yes.
But I think, according to me, AI is not a bubble. Is going to be there for a long time, because it makes your life easy. Because even the person who are not technical, they are using AI in some sense, right? Unlike the blockchain. So even from coding assistant, building the CI/CD pipeline, having ChatGPT as your by side to just typing the email, right? So what do you think? What could be the even for the Docker as well? There are a lot of AI capabilities come. Is Docker model runner came in, everyone got so excited. I guess from last 8 months I haven't done any sort of activity so far, but Docker model runner came, and I found it little interesting, and I thought, okay, this is some area where I can do something. And so what do you think about, how the people in a development, or people like us, right, how they are adapting AI? And I have a follow-up question, but I'll ask you later.
Okay. Yeah. So good question. I I'm using AI for two purposes usually. So one is that I want to answer this email, and usually there's only one line of content that I want to put there, but I have to write a full email with all the formalities. Hello, Mr. Blah blah, and sincerely at the end a lot of stuff, and then that's all. Uh, how to say things that you should put there, and they don't have any specific meaning. So I tell ChatGPT, okay, this is my email, answer, and this is the thing I want to say. So a lot of things are so if you're doing a lot of boilerplate in your email, in your code, then you can automate them and then delegate them, because these are the things that you won't use your mind to make most of the time. It's the normal things, the important part you can do yourself, and then automate the rest. uh, One other thing is that so this is for normal stuff. I want to do my taxes. I have no clue how to do them. Then ChatGPT is there to help me. Uh, in some other parts, it's a bit tricky. Like if I'm writing a blog, and if ChatGPT can write the blog for me, it means there are a lot of blog posts that are covering this content. And if ChatGPT can do that, maybe I should alter things, and maybe I should find a better topic to write about. So, for example, these uh, new AI things that are coming out, like the agents that you can use and this kind of stuff, AI cannot write about them because they're super new, or this Docker model runner. So uh, sometimes I test the content, the freshness of the content by asking ChatGPT, okay, write me this blog post, and if ChatGPT cannot do that, then it means that's a good topic to write about, and that's sometimes so kind of the opposite of what I'm doing in other parts of my daily life. That's also one good way of doing the stuff, I would say, with especially with content creation. Also, one funny thing, and sometimes I ask ChatGPT, okay, write me 10 tweets about, I don't know, the Docker tips. And when ChatGPT writes them, most of the time there are a few of them that are already anti-patterns. Just like I asked ChatGPT once, and one of the tips was to write the maintainer that you did the maintainer label in Dockerfile, which is deprecated already. So you cannot trust ChatGPT on technology because things are just moving too fast.
Yeah, by the way, I follow your Docker tips on the Twitter every,
Uh,
whenever you post. But
I
the
hope
thing,
they're useful.
yes, they're always useful. And one of the thing that even when Docker model runner came, you rightly said, even I asked ChatGPT and ChatGPT doesn't have idea because there was no so like content which is there in the internet where people can reach it. So this is also a way to contribute. This is the reason I told you, right? Because when Docker model runner came, because there was no context available even for the AI, any AI models that what to there. But I think it's also give as a being a part of any program like a Docker Captain or a Snyk Ambassador program that we will get a room there where we can do some experimental work. But one of the I'll be very honest, one of the area where I found really confusing is what when Docker model runner came and as a captain, right? We could create content in so many sense, whether a video or a blog post or some technical code lab or something, right? Or maybe putting on the social media. What I was looking at the Slack channel and I was there are 10 blog posts came and it has the same content like how to install Docker model runner, how can you use, how can you interact. I said, if I can do the same thing, what like there's nothing extra that I'm doing it because I'm going to do the same activity, and there are not so many use case. Maybe in the future we could come up with the more use case to build it. So I just run the Hello GenAI app. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a story. So Hello GenAI app I run, and I saw that it's three application, right? One is in Python, Go, and Node.js. So I was running that. I thought, okay, this is a very simple application, and I couldn't have a more context like how Docker model runner can be helpful. And I need some interaction level in terms of API as well. The whether it could getting my hitting my model or not if I want to troubleshoot, right? So what are the areas, what are the checkpoints I could put? And I thought, okay, this is the area where I think I should build. So I first upgrade the Python application, I put it in the Slack, and I immediately got a message from Francisco, and he said, like, would you like to, put it in the this one? I'm like, yes, of course, I did it for that only. Then first we upgraded Python, then we upgraded Go. Now I'm working on Rust as well. So soon you're going to see the Rust as well. So
Like,
I think being so the reason I'm also pushing over here is because many people joining communities in terms of people think that is the program only for the people who are active on social media or creating video content, right? But it also where you can actually do the code contribution where there's so not so many people. There's a sake, right? Not all the billionaires are on social media. So there
yeah.
are so many amazing people, even in terms of let's say there are I know so many developer advocates who create very good technical content, but they are not having a good presence on social media, right? So there are also ways where people, and I've seen a lot of people are doing amazing work, and you are yourself doing you even you written some books as well, right? You container sorry Docker and Kubernetes as well, right?
Yes, yes.
So
It's still the work in progress. Coming up soon.
version 2, right?
No, so there's a story behind it. I can explain later.
Okay, okay, perfect. Okay, I would like to hear that. And this is, where because when we create a content, it takes a lot of time. So
Yes,
I wanted to understand from your perspective because you are, I think, you're active, you creating very meaningful content, as you said, right? You put a Docker tips, right? And you constantly experimenting as well. So also writing a blog post and find a meaningful way. So people who are new, right, and get attracted that they also wanted to be a content creator, they wanted to be part of the programs. So what are the thoughts they should have as a beginner? This is a
mhm.
this is a very deep question, but I just wanted to break down for you, right? So yes, I wanted to understand from you.
Yes. So I would say the first thing is that most of the time when I'm struggling with, so this is how it all started. I was doing something. I was trying to create a backend with TypeScript, which wasn't very popular back in the day, and there was this framework called SOA that was uh, similar to I can say Nest.js, for example, it would create API specifications based on your functions and things like that. And then I wanted to have a backend with MongoDB, the SOA, TypeScript, and these things. And then it took me some time to actually make it work. And then I realized, okay, if maybe it's also useful for someone else. And I decided to write it in a blog post and published it on Medium. It was maybe the first serious blog post that I have written,
Mhm.
tech-wise, and a lot of people. So it attracted a lot of traffic, and it was the time that I realized, okay, if something is my problem, maybe it's also the problem for other people, and maybe I'm helping other people by writing these things. And it was kind of how to say, and rewarding to see how many people have read this blog, and how many have written some comments on it. And I started writing about Git because that was also the second thing I was struggling with throughout the years. I'm using Git since maybe 2013 or something, and then it's been 12 years now, and I'm still sometimes struggling with it because it's a very complicated tool and you can do things very differently. And then I started writing about Git, and at some point it was weekly, so I called the series Git Weekly, and now I have turned it into a LinkedIn newsletter, so it has a shorter version. So if you just want to have it in your email and then take a look at it for 30 seconds and just get the uh, most crucial point out of it, and then there are different links of it. So uh, the main point is that uh, if you found the solution, maybe it most probably it's worth writing it down.
Mhm.
Also for yourself. So sometimes I'm going back to my own blog posts because, for example, there is this blog post that I've written when you move to a new machine, when you get a new laptop, how to set up your Git, because I'm doing it often like every year or every second year. And there are a lot of things you have to do over and over. And then because I have written this blog, every time I get a new laptop, I go back to this blog post and check all the things and do everything. Uh, if it's useful for you for your future self, then probably it's also useful for other people. So I think that that's the main point.
I
And
I
you
think
didn't like the circle. Good.
yes. I think that one of like it's one of the finest line that you said, that if it's useful for you, it's useful for others. And if you think in that way, that okay, you are not creating the content for others, you are creating a documentation for yourself. So and just you putting out in the public.
Yes.
So yeah, that
If,
could be
if
helpful.
it's useful for other people, then awesome. If it's not, then it's there. It's not hurting anyone. So it,
Yeah.
a lot of people I have seen are not, so they're like, yeah, maybe the thing that I'm writing is not good. So if it's not good, people won't visit it. Like it's not like if you're putting some good content there, or if your content is not even very good, it's not hurting anyone. If the servers are not that expensive, if you put 2 more kilobytes in them, so uh, it's most likely useful for other people, and you shouldn't be worried about if your grammar. And nowadays, there are a lot of AIs that can check your
Yes.
grammar and your way of writing. But yeah, so also one thing is that many times I ask AI to preview my posts, and it turned it into something that I don't like. So I prefer to have this way I'm writing usually. That it's not maybe the perfect grammar, but it's my style. So also not don't be afraid to have grammar difficulties or something. So
And I think even if you're new and if you did that, and I think you open for the feedback, because there is no possible way in your first way you written the perfect guidelines or some documentation. So you open for feedback where people. So I think it's a good way, right? Where there are people who can give you feedback and you can improve. So,
true.
so where you can see your history, right? Because the one of the reasons, since you mentioned Git, the reason we are using Git because we can check the history and we can also
Yes.
check the progress of our work. Similarly, if your first blog is, let's say, not very good, if you return second one is good, so you can see the improvement that you did over the period of time, right? In
True.
terms of
Also, and I would say you shouldn't aim for the perfect thing because internet is full of perfect things. I would say the thing that we maybe is more useful is to have your own point of view on the topic, which might not be perfect, but it's a different look on the topic, which is I think more useful than another perfect thing that is similar to the other perfect thing. So yeah, so it's all if it's useful for you, it's useful for other people. I
yes, I'm going to keep it though it's pretty useful for you, it's useful for everybody. Everybody should keep that in mind. If you really wanted to do in your open source journey, this is going to be super helpful. And since we are using, AI for, because I use even some programming tasks as well, I do that. But that's not my main domain. But I think you have a, I would say, deep involvement in the security space, and also you are a Snyk ambassador. And I would love to know more about the program because I'll be very honest, I never heard about this Snyk ambassador program. So I think the people who are in security space, or they are in cyber security or some area, I've used Snyk tool, but I don't know that they have this program running, right? So I think I would love to if you can share more about it. But my question is, right, as you are more into focusing security, you done some content security task as well. So how do you, how do you still at this point of a time, how much you trust when AI generate the code, whether you're using Copilot or Chat GPT? Do you see it is also risk even when, let's say, when you containerize the application and you ask GPT to write a Docker file for you? Because sometimes I see it's over suggest you.
Yes.
Yes. So
No,
I
if you're getting something from so there are different ways of getting code from ChatGPT. One way is that I think that's called vibe coding, is that you just copy the thing into your uh, project, and if it works, then you're fine with it. Which is I think that's probably the worst thing that you can do. Even when I sometimes ask ChatGPT to write this part for me, and most of the time I try to understand, okay, how did you handle the solution, and then I try to write it again myself, because if you copy paste things, you most probably are going to introduce some issues then and that you're not aware of. And even so, we had security flaws even before ChatGPT. Now that people are mindlessly copying things around, it probably gets worse, especially because ChatGPT is trained on old data, and in technology space, things are moving way too fast. And then if you copy a code from 2 years ago, then it's probably not that secure enough. Uh, Especially if you're doing configuration files like Docker file
yes.
or these things, because there are versions of stuff. Maybe some libraries are deprecated, and there are some new libraries replacing them. If you copy something from ChatGPT, maybe that's it. That's an old library that is not maintained anymore, and then you
Mhm.
get a lot of vulnerability in the supply chain. So uh, if you're copying things from ChatGPT, I would say you should know what you're doing, and you should be able to decipher the code that you're putting in your project. So uh, yeah, that's for one.
Okay, I think I'm going to also going to pick one more keyword over here. You should know what you're doing because
Yeah, that's a good one.
yeah, you should know what you're doing. Uh, use any chat AI tools that you are comfortable with or giving you the good result, because I think AI is so self-enhancing because they know what kind of a code style you have, what kind of a, argument that you're passing, like a prompt engineering, like what kind of a question you ask. So they also self-train like what kind of result you're looking for. I think you share GPT, I think 2 years back, and now it gives you a very good result because they know your context, what
Yes.
what what exactly you are referring. Even if you just give them a random thought, it's give you a good result because they know the context as well. So if using a tool is not harm, but you should know the context. If you are right, if you're getting Docker file, you should know how the libraries work, how Docker itself, how it's work, how they pull it from each layer. So I think that it totally makes sense because I've seen people who just randomly just copy paste and just trying to run it and ended up running the error. Even there is a one funny story. My friend told me that he was interviewing, sorry, he's giving interview and he doing some assignment and he used ChatGPT to write the Docker files and he did it and it was working, right? But the interview asked there are a couple of things that why do you use this statement? Because it was, and to be very honest, when I've seen that file, it was absolutely unnecessary.
Yes,
Right. So you should know what to keep, what are the things is necessary, what is the demand for your product. Because sometimes it's not something it's needed in your solution, though it doesn't have any harm, but in the future that maybe break your system, right?
true.
So is something that
Also, yeah. So in terms of so also one thing is that I have, if you generated blog posts with ChatGPT or something, then if there's a Docker file, that it's probably an outdated Docker file, or if there is a Docker compose file, it will have this version
yes,
tag in it, which is deprecated already. So, and if you publish that post, then people will learn from that outdated post and then see, okay, this is a real person who has published this thing, and so they would trust that this thing is the latest. Maybe you posted the 2 days ago, and then yeah, this is a very new post, and it says you should put this version on it. Uh, one thing that I would say helps with content and code in general is the peer review. So if you do a change in your project, it's always helpful if someone else, a real person, takes a look at it and then they can catch these kind of stuff. Uh, Also, I would say I would trust the content that is peer reviewed better compared to yeah. It's also hard to find out which content is peer reviewed and which one is not. One example is that if it's on Docker's website, even though it's a blog post or it's the documentation, it's been reviewed by other people. Uh,
yes,
that's good. I remember a time that you couldn't quote from Wikipedia because people would make fun of you and say you're using Wikipedia as your source of knowledge, and now ChatGPT is even worse because now it's meddling with the content there, and there is no uh, reference to the real content, and you cannot track if the thing that is being printed really is true or not. Yeah, so it's kind of a, because the whole thing is new. I think we have these kind of issues, and then probably we will have solutions for them. But for now, I think the best thing to do is to trust the content that is being reviewed by other real
ag-
people.
agree. And also you should also try run, for example, you gave an example of Docker Compose, and there is a version mentioned. But I've seen like I come across this kind of situation where people post that creating the blog, but they never try to run because if they run, Docker gives you that warning that hey, this is it doesn't break it because it's just a warning
Yeah,
because that's how it works. But even if you read it and if you're still ignoring, I think then okay, then
yeah, yeah,
then it's
yeah.
worse because
One thing is that if you're writing something, you should run it. Then that's the first point, and then second point is to check the warnings, and if you're seeing anything that is wrong with it, then probably fix it in your blog post or your code.
exactly, because creating content is not you just doing for social media. Because if you notice people who are active on social media, who are not, I come across very few people who are creating the meaningful content where actually really useful, right? And then you can lose your audience, lose the trust. It's just people are just using it for entertainment purpose. That's it. And when you are not going to create a long kind of content like this podcast, right? podcast is not for entertainment, it's not for gaining the experience, gaining the knowledge. And that's a long form of podcast, always something I really prefer. I used to listen 3 to 4 hours of entrepreneur podcast, because that has some good values, because people are sharing their experiences. And these days people are ignored because they get too bored to hear such long form of content. That's the reason people are considering a short form of content. You know that, right? Everybody now creating such things. But looking at it, because one of the reason that we are also doing it, because we have a sheer passion for open source, right? And we really want to give it back to the community.
Mhm.
And I've been thinking a lot how open source is evolving, even in AI as well. So do you feel the speed of open source contribution is still because, like, if I look back 6 years back, I was contributing to one of the product called Firefox, and I was contributed almost, like, I was been this program for 11 years, almost 11 years. When I was a grad, when I was a kid, when I was in, I would say, in my first year of college, university. From then, actually, I started contributing.
Mhm.
But considering this, the culture is little different, and the contributing to open source is also a little different. So now, when it comes to AI models, because there are open source AI models available, right? So how it is changing? Is it, as per you? Is it still alive? Is it shifting? What is the mindset? What is?
And I would say there is a lot of there are a lot of people that are so their sole purpose is to giving back to the community. And the thing is that if sometimes there are some bad things happening, they are louder than the good things that are happening. So if there is something wrong with some part of the community, then you probably notice it sooner than the good people that are doing a hard job and contributing to the community, to the code and everything. But I would say it's still running, and KubeCon is growing even bigger, and the Kubernetes project is huge on GitHub. Linux itself is the largest project ever existed, and I think so. Everything is also running on Linux, and I think this whole thing is I would even say it's getting better, because 20 years ago Microsoft would say Linux is a cancer, and now
Yes.
they are contributing to it, and they have added it to their operating system. So I think it's all going into the correct path, and it's getting better in a sense.
Okay. Awesome. And I think, yeah. I have never used Microsoft in my entire life. When I used to join a company and they offer a laptop with Windows, I said I cannot use. I need to use Linux or give me Mac. So, but
Yeah,
they have, you shouldn't remove the Windows because they have a license. But I said, okay, I'm fine, but I'm stick to Linux, because I'm not comfortable to using, because I never used it.
I also haven't never used it for development, so I think it's better now a bit. I have never tried it, but because there is this subsystem, and you can have a Linux attached to your Windows, which is still
Yes,
kind of funny because you have to endure Windows. And but yeah, so I have never used it for development, and I would prefer to be as close as possible to the server that my program is going to run on.
right.
And back in the day when I was starting with Docker, you couldn't possibly run Docker on Windows, for example.
Yes,
Uh,
because Linux only in beginning, right?
yes, yes. Also now it's also Linux only. You're just creating a
Yes,
virtual machine on which it has Linux in it. Uh, but yeah, so now I'm using Mac also for some time at work,
yeah.
and
I have never
I'm
used Windows my personal as well. To be very honest, you were saying something.
sorry. Yeah, so and I just got a laptop which has Windows on it, and
Oh,
I logged into it, uh, and I don't hate it anymore. So yeah, I think using Mac for some time made me more I don't know, flexible toward Windows. But yeah, it's all personal preferences. If someone is more comfortable with Windows for development, then there is nothing.
Yes, I think because Windows, I think at the time, one of the reason people ask that it's Windows gives you flexibility, and I would say Linux gives you power, a compute.
Mm.
And still, for personal as well, I cannot use Windows because I never used it. But I think, as you rightly said, because they also now they realize the power of open source, and they even the PowerShell that completely adopted from the Linux, right? There's so many tools, even the GitHub they adopted. There's so many tools now. They're even contributing heavily. They build also building infrastructures. But one of the question that might probably people ask you that, and when they ask me, when they say, hey man, I want to learn Docker and Kubernetes, because if you want to be in the DevOps or cloud field, and this is some of the areas that we should know. So when they ask me, like, I want to learn Docker and Kubernetes, I said first learn Linux or Windows, any operating system choice, because if
Mm,
you know, you can troubleshoot.
yes. I would say for Docker and Kubernetes, you should probably learn Linux. Learning Windows wouldn't help that much
Yeah, but I just
because everything is inherited from Linux. Like
yeah.
you have issues like provision issues which are Linux style. The whole that Docker is Linux namespaces and uh, this is happening because Linux has this feature in the kernel, and a lot of things that happen are Linux specific things. So I would say if you're learning Docker or Kubernetes or DevOps in general, you should probably have a basic understanding of how Linux works.
Yes, but just that I don't want to be biased. The people say that some people because I come across, because I used to conduct a workshop, and there are 70% of the people they were using when I used to tell them install Docker desktop, or they were they were on Windows, and always they are facing issues because there's WSDL issues, virtualization issues. Linux is just one go, but I always say if you want to learn any system that is your choice, right? Because that is important, choice, because by choice if you go, then you can spend more time. If I can force you to do something, whether it's Linux or Windows, you're going to lose your interest, right?
Yeah, yeah. So if I'm there and doing a Docker workshop, I would be biased and tell them to learn Linux, not Mac or Windows, so, because that's more useful in terms of learning Docker and DevOps. But yeah, there are Windows containers now also, which I don't know how they work and I don't know much about them. But yeah, so usually if there's a container running, it's a Linux container, and you should know Linux stuff about it.
You know what I do when I took the workshop, and when I ask them, I simply tell them, if you're running an issue on Windows by while using Docker, don't ask me, because even I don't know, because I don't use it. So how can I ask them? Buddy, I can help you to figure it out looking at the error, Stack Overflow, something. But genuinely, I don't know, because I never used it. And okay, I wanted to come back to the security one, where if you can tell us more about the Snyk Ambassador program, because there are people who deeply interested into security domain, and there people are learning it. I think they'd love to hear about what is Snyk Ambassador program, what they're focusing, right?
True. Yeah, so Snyk I first got to know Snyk because it was integrated into Docker before Docker's code was invented. Uh, there was this command on Docker that was called Docker scan. You could scan your uh, Docker image, and it would give you a list of all the vulnerabilities, and then you could fix them. Um, Now you can do so. That was a Snyk engine running on Docker. You can do
Mhm.
that now with Snyk also, which is a paid solution for security. Uh, I think there is a free tier that you can use for your open projects, open source projects, and personal projects, and you can integrate it with your repository, for example, on GitHub, and then if there are any vulnerabilities in your packages, it will create a pull request for you, and then you can merge it. Uh, the ambassador program is very similar to Docker Captains,
Mhm.
and we get meetings with the Snyk people, and then there are some presentations on things that are happening, and uh, sometimes some a sneak peek on the things that they're building. And I became a Snyk ambassador before becoming a Docker captain, so uh, there are some people that are both a Snyk ambassador and Docker captain, and uh, that's a great. If you're interested in security, that's a great networking opportunity, I would say.
Okay, I think I was looking at this. I've used this tool when we were actually looking for a tool who can scan our Docker images. It was 2019, but then we come across this open source tool called Trivi,
Yes.
and because it was the same year, they also released their first version. So I have tried that, but now I think there is one more tool. Even Docker has Docker Scout, which also do the like amazing job right now. So, but if
Yes.
you like to
Fun fact.
differentiate, how do
Yeah,
you?
fun fact. This book that I'm writing, which is kind of finished. I can tell the story later. Uh, the second chapter is on the tools that are there for checking supply chain security, and I have covered Docker Scout, Snyk, and Trivial, all of them, all of the three, together with Falco, which is more of a runtime thing. But yeah, these three are comparable, as you said. Sorry, I interrupted your question.
No, no, that was the only question. I was just saying it that I was using it, but because at that time Docker doesn't have the specific tool, their own tool who can scan it. So I was first landed up using Snyk, and
Mm,
then use Trivi because that was one of the open source alternatives who can.
yes,
And it was the same year, I think 2019 they released their first version. I guess yes, I guess it's 2019. Yes, they released their first version, and
probably.
yes.
Yeah, so it was 1 year before or maybe a few months before I became a captain, that
Mhm.
uh, they published Docker Scout, and then I wrote a blog post about the differences between Docker Scout and Docker Scan, which was then a Snyk under the hood of Docker, and I managed to make both of the companies unhappy because if there's a comparison, there are negative points on each side, and then this is not very interesting. And
Yes.
but yeah,
No, no, agree, agree. And I'm not going to ask you to give a comparison because I don't want to do that.
no, but yeah, so they are, I would say, focusing on different things. So Trivi is, and they have different sources of uh, vulnerability. So there is this thing called CVE, which is a
Yes.
common vulnerability exploitability or something like that. And then this is a record that shows, okay, this package in this version have this issue,
Mhm.
and there are databases coming out of everywhere. And the usual way is that you check the things that you have on your packages, and then you check it with the databases. uh, they are different in the ways that they work. For example, with Docker Scout, if you have a spam attestation for your Docker image, then it will use it and just compare the packages with the databases, and it won't generate it again because
Mhm.
you already have the list of the packages. Usually, when you use one of these tools, it will check your packages inside the container, and then it will compare them with these known vulnerabilities. But when you have a spam generated, when you build your Docker image, and then you have kind of assign this spawn to your Docker image, then it's something that you can trust, and then Docker Scout will just take that and compare to the CVEs that are known. So some subtle differences, some differences in the uh, databases they use, but yeah, most and some different ways of doing the stuff. Like
Mhm.
Docker Scout has both a CLI side and
Yes.
some parts on Docker Hub, and yeah, so they kind of act differently.
So both has their advantage and disadvantage. Some as a platform agnostic as well. If you're using ecosystem, so I think that may gives you that flexibility to use it right? Okay, so I'm going to move to my final two questions, final
Yeah.
two, which I had in my mind. If anyone wants to, let's say, wants to be a Docker captain or a Snyk ambassador, right? So what are the tips that you can give it to them?
Mhm.
Because I get LinkedIn message sometime, I want to be a Docker captain. Uh,
Okay, nice. That's good. I have written actually a blog post, I think, on Medium and Dev2
okay.
uh, about my journey of becoming a Docker captain. Uh,
Mhm.
there are a few things that helped me. So I think everyone's journey is different. I had a friend that was contributing on Docker Compose or something,
Okay.
and Docker actively reached out to him to ask him if he wants to become a Docker captain. But I was writing a lot of blog posts back in the day. I was organizing these Docker meetups. I was speaking, so there was this thing back in the day called Docker Community All Hands, and I had talks in two of them. I had written blog posts for Docker at the time, so I had two or three blog posts there. I wrote it together with Ajit,
Mhm.
uh, and I think this was my journey of and this uh, blog post that I have written on Docker Scout versus Scan also grabbed some attention inside Docker, and then when I applied, a lot of them already knew me because of different things, and yeah, I think that was the journey that I took to get there. And for a Snyk, this was uh, I think two more things. One was that uh, I knew this guy on Twitter because I was interested in security, and he knew me, uh, and he's in a Snyk. And then the other thing is that Liron Toll, if you know him, and I also have uh, uh, two or three npm packages, and I was using Snyk to check them. There is this thing called the Snyk Advisor that you can use to check if a third-party library is trustable or not. And then I was using it to check my packages and try to see which parts I can improve. Uh, these different things, having I would say in one word, giving back to community, and then the
Yes.
community will recognize it.
Yes. Did you realize that you are very good with one-liners? Some point you realize come up with so many one-liners which can actually say our message clearly what they really need to do in a so I think we should some the good thing is now it's everything is documented for us.
Yes.
You can
Yeah.
share
So
it.
I usually have a TLDR part in my blog post because which is a one liner of the whole thing, what the whole thing is about, and people like it, and so I added them to the book that I'm writing. So each chapter also have a TLDR section, so that you can take a look, and if it's interesting for you, then you can read more and deepen into the topic.
Perfect. I think this is a good. I think good is a good suggestion. Something that I think I need to adopt because it makes sense. You get a context. Okay, then you decide whether okay this is something interested you. This is something you want to read about it, want to explore, and then you can read the whole thing. So do you put this in the start of the blog post or the end of the blog post?
Yeah, so usually there is one or two lines of introduction. We're going to
Hmm.
do this and that. We're going
Hmm.
to, for example, introduce the mail map on Git, which is a thing that you can map different author emails and stuff. And then there is a one-liner. If you want to do that, create a file .mail map and put the emails in it. And if it's something for you, if you want to know more about what mail map is and how it works, you can just go through, check the codes, or maybe read more deeply. And otherwise, if it's not interesting, this is not your problem, then you can just go to your next page or something.
That makes sense. And this actually, realized me something because in start of when I was a student and I was attending a lot of open source events, so I had a habit that I used to write a blog post, not technical blog post, what happened in the event, because I was part of this program where it's considered as a contribution. So I thought, okay, this is a good way because I was bad at writing. So I thought, okay, this is something I want to do. And what I did, as you rightly mentioned about the peer review, so I wrote my first blog post about one of the big event that I attended. I was volunteered, and also I volunteered from the Mozilla, right? So I wrote the blog post, who completed, and then I pass it to one of the very senior guy who's been to the program from long time. And I thought, can you review it? Can you give me the feedback? He told me very nice thing that you like the blog post is good, it says everything, but first thing, whenever you write about events, write it in a such a way that people who are going to read it, they will realize that what actually happened. They should get the context, they should feel that they are there in the event. And at the end of your blog post or anything that you do, whether in your work, in your life, everything, put a small big caption and put some small context about what next. For
Mm-hmm.
example, if you got first event about like how it went, put what next and say what is the next event that you're going to attend, what are the next event you want to do, attend or speak, or what is, let's say if you're writing a technical article, what next you are going to explore, what you, next book you are going to read, right? So, and that's hit me a lot. So whenever I write my blog post, I always put what next at the end, because that gives you clarity that what next you are going to refer, and also give you a room as well to, okay, you already you already promised something in a public, now you have to do. So it's something, put it in the situation. And that led me to my final question, that what's something that you are excited about in the next in the tech space right now, whether it's a trend or tool or some mind shift challenge. Because I've been thinking about a lot when I interact with the community about whether it's an interaction about the AI or cloud native tools, or in general about infrastructure, specifically about Linux, and I get always excited to talk about it. But what next you are targeting?
Good question. I could say I'm interested. I'm looking forward to my book being published. So this next thing that you put in your blog post now, since a month ago, I every time I'm writing something, I put this check my book that is coming up in the next section. So if you want to check something next, yeah, to check this out. But technology wise, I'm not sure. Maybe there is this thing called eBPF. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. It's being used in some technologies, but not. I think it has more potential that it's being
Yes.
currently used. Uh, I think that's it. Nothing else on my mind.
Like
I
do
don't want to say AI because then everything is AI now, and if I say AI, then the too much AI already.
Yes, but even I'm curious about eBPF because in terms of observability, I think this is a good area. Even I am, if you ask me what next, so this is one of the area where I am going to dig more. So I think we have one common interest area where we are going to dig. So now this is the room where, like, though we had a very long conversation, but do you have something that you want to ask me?
Okay, nice. That's a hard one. Uh,
I know.
so how did you become a Docker captain? I never asked you. What was your journey?
Uh, I was using Docker from last 10 years, and even there was a time that we have containerized our whole application, right? We were using Bash, we were using microservices, but there was no containerization at all. So we actually helped our company to adopt it. It was very new, and I heard about Docker because I attended one meetup, I guess, by the one of the guy who was working in Red Hat, and he talked about Vagrant, which is very exciting. But when he talked about Docker, it was super exciting at that time. And I thought this is a really good, and I was so. But I was constantly contributing to do only one community because that doesn't make sense. You be part of so many things and you can doesn't contribute. As I said, right, I was in Mozilla Firefox from less almost 10 to 11 years. I was in the program. I joined as an ambassador, and 2022 I was one of the council chairman. I was working with the board of directors, right, for a 1 year. So you need to reach that. So that you can share your journey, right? That you achieved these things. Then I started because I realized that most of my time I spending around DevOps, cloud systems, cloud native tools. So that I wanted to contribute now specific to these areas. Then I have joined Google Cloud. I organize these conferences, and I in every of my workshop I always talk about Docker and Kubernetes. This is something always go. Then this people like even Ajit, then Harsh, they highly recommended, specifically Harsh, because Harsh told me that man, you should really part of this program. And I applied, and I think within a week I got on board. Like, and I had a call, and I within a single day. The one of the good thing that everybody who wants to be part of this program is something that you really want to passionate about it. Because if you are just using it as you have to, because everybody using it Docker, right? Everybody, even the developer are using Docker. But do you have an interest area where you want to share your knowledge? You want to keep digging more. For example, if Docker releasing new feature, do you interested to learn more about it? Because because in the company we do not want to learn about the new feature. We just wanted to complete a task, whatever the task that we assigned for. We want to do that. But I think this is makes a difference. To be very honest, if I wasn't excited for Docker, I wouldn't apply. Consider to apply it, because if I cannot give my time to the program, that doesn't make sense, right? And that's the reason I'm not part of so many programs. But the where I see the meaningful way of me also learning from the peers, because I see there's so many amazing people in the Docker Captain program, right? You are one of them. I'm constantly following. Before even know you, before I was following you on Twitter. Even Ajit, Harsh, they are doing amazing job, right? So I think all the people, all the Docker captain, even all the Snyk Ambassador, all the people who are contributing to respective communities, because they are giving their time. So kudos to them. So it was a very short journey, but with Docker I had a long journey. But with Docker captain I didn't have a long journey. It's just 1.5 year, and because as you know, right, I was shifting from India to Germany now, and one of the thing, and so I we have initiated that to how we can do some local events. Even yesterday when I met Sergey, we talked about it. Let's do some local meetup in Berlin. He said like we generally what we do, because I'm more into speaking engagement. I creating the technical tutorials, blog posts. I said I just wanted to give a push, get other people on board so they can run the show. At least we should start something the way you started, right? You started and then people joined.
Yes.
So if you're here, you can contribute. That's the only mindset. I think it's all about mindset. If anyone wants to join any program, you should have that mindset to be a part of the people who are interested in the similar space that you are. I hope I have not spoken too much.
Okay, awesome, awesome. One funny thing about these meetups is that because of these meetups that we have now in Freiburg, we have a spike of number of captains that we have in Freiburg. I think we have four captains in Freiburg now, and
Yes.
and
So in your last meetup post as well, there were how many captains were present in that meetup?
last meetup that we had, four captains were present, but not all of the captains from Freiburg. So one was coming from Karlsruhe, which is the next city. So one of
Mhm.
the Freiburg captains was missing, but someone else came from another city. Yeah, but the one before that, we had Timo the Stark that came from Nuremberg. I think that's also a long journey, maybe 6 hours ride, and then he came to Freiburg to talk and went back.
Yes, and something that I really want to attend the next one. The only thing I thinking about to go to Switzerland, then come to
Yeah,
that, because
yeah, yeah. Funny thing that the next speaker that we have is also coming from Switzerland, so it's also not too far away. We are 14 minutes away from Switzerland, so when you get to the Freiburg, we can go to Switzerland together.
perfect. Like in Berlin, if you can go to Poland and you can come back. It's
Yes,
it's 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 very near over here. Similarly,
yeah,
the map that you put me. But with that, I really want to thank you for your time, and you shared. I'm really inclined about what are the some of the information that you shared, because it's all come with the experiences, and it's a journey. Maybe after 10 years there is going to be add more and more. and I hope the people who are going to watch it, and I'm not sure how many because I will not look for the number, but if it gonna help any people, I think that's worth a time. And yeah, and to everyone, thank you so much for watching. Any last word from you, Mohammed?
Uh, yeah. So thanks a lot for having me, and it was great talking to you, and I hope the things that I said was helpful to the listeners.
One last question: is it the hat? Is it a canonical symbol?
Yes, because I because I'm using Ubuntu all the time. I
Oh,
the Red Hat was the first Linux that I used, but now since
okay.
1404 I'm using Linux.
Uh,
I'm using Ubuntu. So I thought it's fair to it's canonical that I
yeah.
put this thing in front.
The reason I recognize because I like I myself, even for personal, whenever I personally use, I prefer Ubuntu, and that's the reason I just saw the color. I think this is Ubuntu.
I
Yes.
even have it on my Mac, so because I'm running a VM on it which has Ubuntu in it. So
So guys who are watching, this is how passionate we are, and it's reflect in our aura as well. And yes, of course, if you want to get it, you have to contribute, but make sure do whatever you like, and make sure whatever you doing it, make sure you share because that's very important. Share,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thank you, Muhammad.
Thank you
See you.
for having me. See you.